I used to think strength was loud, that it announced itself, took up space, refused to bend. That belief kept me chasing versions of myself that never fit. I learned early how to perform resilience, how to smile through exhaustion, how to say I'm fine with convincing precision. People admired that. They called me strong for surviving things I was never meant to survive. Quietly, what they didn't see was how tired. Strength made me. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being the reliable one, the steady one, the person others lean on without ever asking how much weight you're already carrying. I became good at holding things together. To good. I held conversations together, relationships together, entire versions of myself together with sheer willpower. I ignored the cracks because acknowledging them felt like failure, like weakness, like letting everyone down. So I kept going, until one day, I couldn't. It wasn't dramatic. No collapse, no tears in public, no moment anyone else would remember. I just stopped responding the way I used to. I stopped filling silences, stopped explaining myself, stopped fixing discomfort that wasn't mine to fix. At first, it felt wrong, like I was being careless, like I was abandoning a role I'd been assigned without ever agreeing to it. People noticed. Some asked if I was okay. Some joked that I'd changed. Some grew distant, uncomfortable without the version of me that smoothed everything over. That's when it hit me. My strength had been convenient. It made things easier for everyone else. Not for me. There's a difference between being strong and being self-erasing. I didn't know that for a long time. I thought endurance was the same thing as worth. That the more I could withstand, the more valuable I became. But endurance without choice turns into a cage. I started paying attention to my body instead of overriding it. To the way my chest tightened when I said yes but meant no. To the exhaustion that followed every interaction where I performed calm. Instead of telling the truth, I realized I wasn't tired because life was hard. I was tired because I never let myself rest from being someone else. Letting go of that identity was terrifying. Who was I if I wasn't the dependable one? The unshakable one? The person who never needed anything? The answer didn't come all at once. It came in small moments. In saying, I can't today, and surviving the guilt. In letting conversations end without rescuing them. In choosing quiet without turning it into isolation. I learned that boundaries don't make you cruel. They make you honest. Some people didn't like the honest version of me. That hurt more than I expected. Not because I wanted their approval, but because it confirmed something I'd been avoiding. Some connections only exist when you overextend yourself. Losing those connections felt like grief, but it also felt like relief. For the first time, my energy belonged to me. I started noticing what I liked when I wasn't adapting to someone else's expectations. What made me feel calm instead of useful? What felt true instead of impressive? It wasn't dramatic. It was simple. Slow mornings, conversations without performance, silence that didn't feel empty. I stopped chasing intensity and mistaking it for meaning. I stopped believing that love had to hurt to be real. I stopped proving my worth through exhaustion. Strength changed shape. It became quieter, softer, more deliberate. Strength became the ability to walk away without explaining myself 100 times. To rest without earning it. To say this hurts without apologizing. I still have moments where the old reflex kicks in, where I want to fix everything, where I feel responsible for moods that aren't mine. But now, I pause. I ask myself one question before I act. Am I choosing this or am I disappearing again? That question has saved me more times than I can count. I no longer confuse being needed with being loved. I no longer equate silence with peace. I no longer sacrifice myself for the comfort of others. I'm not invincible. I'm not endlessly strong. I'm present. And that finally feels like enough. 1000. Presence doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in fragments, in moments where I catch myself not disappearing, in pauses where I used to retreat, in breaths I actually finish instead of cutting short. At first, it felt wrong, like I was breaking an unspoken rule, like I was taking something that didn't belong to me, space, time, attention. I kept waiting for consequences, for someone to tell me I was too much, for discomfort to turn into punishment, for the ground to disappear under my feet. But nothing happened. The world didn't collapse because I spoke honestly. People didn't leave every time I said no. Some did, but they were already halfway gone, tethered only to the version of me that never asked for anything. That realization stung. I had to face the truth that parts of my life were built around my absence, around my willingness to adapt, absorb, endure. When I stopped doing that, the structure shifted. Not everything survived, and I let it. That was new to allowing loss without chasing closure. Without trying to repair something that required me to shrink again, I started noticing how often I used to override myself. How instinctively I dismissed my own reactions. A tight chest, ignore it. A sense of unease, rationalize it. A quiet no inside, replace it with compliance. I thought that was maturity. It was self-abandonment. Learning to stay meant learning to listen. Not to the loudest voice in the room, but to the quiet signals inside me that had been ignored for years. My body spoke first before language, before logic. It always had. I began trusting it. When something felt wrong, I paused instead of pushing through. When something felt right, I let myself lean into it without suspicion. That trust didn't make life easier. It made it clearer. Clarity is uncomfortable when you've built your safety on ambiguity. When you've survived by blending in, clarity feels like exposure. But it's also grounding. I stopped apologizing for my needs. Not abruptly, not perfectly, but intentionally. Each withheld apology felt like reclaiming a small piece of myself. I noticed how my voice changed when I wasn't bracing for rejection. How my posture softened when I wasn't anticipating impact. How my thoughts became less frantic when I wasn't constantly preparing to leave. I stayed longer in conversations, in moments, in myself. There were setbacks, days when old habits resurfaced without warning. When I said yes too quickly. When I laughed at things that hurt. When I swallowed words that deserved air. Instead of shaming myself, I noticed that compassion mattered. Healing wasn't about erasing the past version of me. It was about understanding why she existed and choosing differently now. I stopped treating my fear like an enemy. Fear wasn't trying to ruin me. It was trying to protect me with outdated information. It remembered a world where silence meant survival. I live in a different world, now. One where I get to choose. I still feel fear, but it no longer decides. For me, I learned that presence doesn't mean constant confidence. It means honesty with yourself, even when the truth is messy. It means allowing uncertainty without turning it into self-doubt. I don't always know what I want, but I know what I won't accept. That knowledge is enough. I also learned that being present doesn't mean being loud. I don't need to perform my growth. I don't need to prove I'm healed. I just need to be here, fully, imperfectly, honestly. There's a quiet strength in that. The kind that doesn't demand attention, but holds its ground when tested. The kind that doesn't disappear when challenged. The kind that stays. Some nights, silence still gets loud. Memories still surface. Doubts still whisper. The urge to shrink still appears when things feel uncertain. But now, I recognize it. I don't follow it blindly. I sit with it. Breathe through it. Let it pass without letting it define me. Silence no longer erases me. It rests beside me. And I remain. Not because I'm fearless. Not because I'm fixed. But because I've learned that my presence quiet, steady, unremarkable is worth protecting. I'm not disappearing anymore. Even when it would be easier, even when it would be familiar, I stay.